Hey, I just wanted to record a video about media analysis and how overly binary it can be. And I wanted to use a few examples. Ever seen this movie? Yeah. Um, Depends on who you talk to. Like, some people will say it's this criminally underrated masterpiece, while others will call it an absolute dumpster fire. But I think the problem is they're missing, both sides in that case are missing a lot of key nuance. Yeah, this movie can be very wooden at times, and I think there is a lack of a clear single protagonist to want to follow. Now, I think that trilogy did kind of get better as it went on by establishing a more clear protagonist that we were going to be following and kind of started feeling more like the other Star Wars films, but there are some genuinely good parts in this as well. Like, the action scenes are all on point. Some of the editing can be a bit weird, especially with the lightsaber fight at the end, because I think it cuts away from it too often, but the action that's here is as good as ever. The set design is beautiful. There's a lot of practical effects in this film. There's a lot of cool ideas that were expanded upon later in its sequels, as well as in spin-off things such as the Clone Wars. So I think that just, dismissing this outright is a bad idea, but I think that going too far in the other direction and defending it without acknowledging any of its flaws is, again, a bad idea. And here I have a video game, Metroid Prime. Beautiful game. And again, this kind of has like the opposite thing when it comes to media analysis. So many people will just like see this game and have this instant positive reaction where they're just gonna put it up on a pedestal and say it's absolutely perfect and has no problems, and it's just this wonderful second coming of Christ, cancer curing, just woo. But like, they kind of forget that it does have signs of age. The structure of the game can be very unfocused at times. It can ask you to do ridiculous amounts of backtracking for like one item. It's some of the combat can just be really tedious, repetitive, and spammy. Like, it's not perfect. Does that mean it's not good? No. I love this game. I will play this game until I'm dead. This game is wonderful. But I can also acknowledge that it has flaws. Now, I'm not saying that every media critic is like just gonna be focusing on going very binary, but I think a lot of discussions, especially on the internet, can be very biased. A lot of it has to do with nostalgia, especially when it comes to like a lot of stuff from the 90s and 2000s. And so sometimes people will overlook very obvious flaws because of their childhood nostalgia and bias, or sometimes people will tear something apart too heavily because they weren't there. You see this a lot with like NES games, like the original Metroid. People will just rip it to shreds without ever considering the time it was made in and the effort that you actually have to put in to beat it. People will just rip it apart and say it's complete garbage because they refuse to understand. So there are a lot of problems in media analysis, specifically on the internet, that really try to make everything into a black and white discussion. It's either a masterpiece or it's slop. It's either perfect or it's a dumpster fire. But sometimes it's okay for things to just be okay. Like, let's take Star Wars Episode 2. I would consider this to be an okay movie. It's got a lot of good parts. It's got a lot of rough parts. It's okay. It's not a dumpster fire that I'm going to try to throw out or something. I'm happy to own this film. It is a good film I like watching sometimes. But it's also not some kind of masterpiece, let's not kid ourselves here. Now, opinions may vary, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to hate or love something. I love this game despite its flaws, and sometimes even because of its flaws. I don't absolutely love this movie because of its flaws, but I don't hate it because of its flaws. I can still look past it to enjoy what I like about it. There's one more example. If you're a Metroid fan, or even just a Nintendo fan in general, you're going to understand what I'm holding here. And if you don't, this is widely considered by many, including myself, to be the worst Metroid game ever made. It is insanely linear, offers no choice, has a just god-awful story that makes Samus out to be a whiny brat who worships this guy way too much. Its mechanics are stupid, and everything about it just feels like a worse rehash of Metroid 4, which was just an objectively better game in the sense of it just did everything this game did, but better. On inferior hardware, no less. That being said, there are parts of this I do legitimately enjoy. On second playthroughs, you can skip all the cutscenes, which gets rid of a lot of the stuff that makes this so horrible, and you can just kind of enjoy a kind of mid-tier action game. Yeah, sometimes the gameplay can get a little bit stupid. I want enemies to drop health and ammo, for example. Why did they get rid of that? I don't know, but they just did. But, it's fine. It's as a game, as a video game itself, I don't mind playing it. I can sometimes enjoy just turning my brain off and running around. I can acknowledge that there were some decent cutscenes. There were some decent character interactions. There were some boss fights that I legitimately was excited to play. It's just that it's more bad than good. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to understand, is that some things can be more bad than good, some things can be more good than bad, and I think that's how it works with all media. This game is more good than bad. It has bad, but more good for me. This game is entirely the opposite. It's more bad than good, but there is still some good to be enjoyed. And I'm not going to insult somebody who finds this game to be enjoyable, because even I can find ways to enjoy it. And I'm not going to insult somebody who finds this game to not be enjoyable, because I understand that some people find this game to be too flawed for their tastes. I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but I really want to make this point clear, because I am tired of being harassed for my takes on media. I'm tired of seeing others get harassed for their takes on media. I feel like if we just accept that there is no such thing as a binary when it comes to media discussion, and that we just try to sit back, relax, and have a constructive conversation about what something did right and what something can improve on, then we will ultimately be able to enjoy stuff more, while also not be tearing each other down all the time, because that doesn't lead to good media outcomes. It just leads to a big old dumpster fire. And as somebody who enjoys writing, as somebody who enjoys playing games, as somebody who enjoys watching movies, I need there to be better discourse around this stuff, instead of just shaming people for their tastes in movies or video games or comics or whatever. Because ultimately, it feels like a lot of internet discussion can be very two-sided. It's either you got the nostalgia-pilled people who will just fight for whatever they grew up with, no matter how good or bad it is. And then you just got the people who just hate everything old and want all the new stuff to be just the best, and there's no room for any type of intelligent discussion. There's no room for healthy comparison, and it just makes me mad. Because I just want to be a silly little nerd and enjoy my silly little nerd things without all the hatred and vitriol that comes with it.